Hi, sir. Welcome back to our college. After many years, you're stepping into your college. So, how do you feel? And unload or self-introduction.
I mean, how do I feel? It's firstly very nostalgic. I'm Kaushik and I'm from the third batch of RSA. And I've had a little bit of a, like a roller coaster ride, like in the school as well as outside the school because I studied architecture and then I moved on to design and, I published my own books and then now I've become I've become specialized in book design. So that's what I am right now. So as for how I feel about this whole thing, like I was just walking through the corridors and all that, and I was looking at all the artworks that our batch like made, and I was feeling very nostalgic about it. And not a lot of things have changed in a good way, so I feel good being here. Yeah.
We would like to start from your college journey. So, tell me about your college journey. So, it's been years, like, unload first year and the fifth year varicom. There will be a lot of ups and downs, and as you said, mentioned Panamari roller coasters and so many things. So, unload your journey about your fellow students and then your staffs and everything.
So when I joined, there were literally just like three batches entirely. So we had like two more sets of seniors, and the staffs were also like it was like we were all in a testing the waters kind of a phase. எல்லாருமே வந்து they are trying to do something like they have never done before. Everybody's trying to figure out like what is this and all that. And architecture is also quite complicated subject, so everybody was like students also. We were all trying to understand what a concept is, because that becomes a major thing, like in the first year to understand this is not a concept, this is the concept or the concept. So we were all trying to understand what architecture means, what architecture is. Staffs are also trying to like gel with us and trying to understand what would be a great flow and all that. So the first 3 years, like especially me coming from the third batch, there wasn't adequate infrastructure as well, and because we were trying to develop like everything together with the staffs, and because of that there were some challenges, like they will ask us to do something, we will say like no, we want to do it this way and all that. So those conflicts also helped shape the like college in a better way later on, because for everyone it was an experiment in the beginning. And those roller coaster ride, it was primarily because of two things. One is me being me. That is one thing, because if you come to me with a plan A, I am the kind of person who tends to say, like plan B. So that is, like adanale there is a natural, like a tendency to, like create some conflict. And the second thing is also because, nobody knew, how to do, nothing was established. Everybody was in the process of establishing things. So it was a very interesting phase in the college, like that we had to, like tell, இப்படிதான் drafting boards இருக்கணும், இப்படிதான் வந்து இப்படிதான் எனக்கு ரூம்ஸ் வேணும், இத்தனை ஃப்ளோர்ஸ் எங்களுக்கு வேணும், இந்த மாதிரி எங்களுக்கு ஒரு ரூம் இருந்தால் நல்லா இருக்கும் அப்படின்றது எல்லாமே ஷேப் பண்ணது அந்த ப்ராசஸ்ல இருந்தோம். It was not just about learning architecture, but it was also in a way we were for our own benefit, we are trying to shape how an architecture school can be. But it also, I think, helped the later batches and all that. So it was a very interesting phase that way. Yeah.
So can you tell about your senior junior interaction, the friendship, and அது உங்களுக்கு எப்படி helpful இருந்துச்சு?
So like I said, like we didn't have when I was in my first year, like we didn't have a fifth year senior, like there were maximum, there was a third year senior. So they also had a limited amount of experience, and they didn't have a seniors, like a senior batch themselves. So, but our interaction was really good. The number of students were very low. I think the first batch was like just 30 students. அதுக்கப்புறமா 60 இருந்தாங்க, நாங்க 80. So a little bit freer in terms of interaction, because when my batch joined, that's when we started stride. First year and second year there was no stride. Third year when we joined, like stride like was initiated, but stride was a collective initiative. So appo vandu there was also one more event called attic. It was like a it was an array of things. It was lectures, it was activities and all that, but at the same time it was a big event for a small institution like this to organize, because there were only some staffs were there. So that enabled like a lot of senior junior interaction. and the interaction now, it also like translated into how well we performed in academics. So probably like my seniors didn't have that advantage, but we had it because they were already there. We were able to go and talk to them. Like, is this something that we can do? Is this something that we cannot do? Like that thing was there, and I'm still close with like a lot of seniors. I'm actually close with a lot of. I think I had a better relationship with my juniors than my seniors. Even with my thesis and all that, at least some 8 to 9 people were like staying in my house, and like there were mini groups within my making my own thesis. Like one group was focusing on the report, one group was focusing on the drafting, one group was focusing on the presentation, another group was presenting focusing on the model making and all that. So I always tried to involve like my juniors to like whatever I was doing. So I had a very good relationship with my juniors, like that way. And I think they also later on, tried to pass it on a little bit, like
It's like a learning
pieces.
process.
So my seniors helped me, but I think like then when we were there, I think we had more opportunities to like push our juniors, or like connect with our juniors better. And in that way, personally, I was more connected with my juniors, and they have been very helpful to me, and I hope I have also been very helpful to them, because எனக்கு வந்து they have physically helped, like இதை பண்ணி தந்து அப்படின்னா. But I hope I was in a position where I was able to teach them, or like try to do this, try to do that, like, or sometimes when they indirectly like learn by just working with me and all that. So that is a very essential relationship, for an
Especially for
architecture
this
school
course.
especially. So yeah, that's how it was for me.
So thank you. So now we have a small session where we'll be showing you some photos
Okay.
from our college. So ungaloda memory from this college. Ungaloda.
So this was this drawing, like the artwork that was done during Attic only. So before Attic, we had to revamp the entire college. Most of the artworks that you see now, it was all done in those few weeks. It was not done like this was done during this year, that was done during that year. That's not how it happened. Everything like happened during the same few weeks. Some of them have, I noticed that they have been replaced by other artworks, which probably came later. But இதெல்லாம் வந்துட்டு it happened during that same phase, before Attic. This was done by my batchmate, like 3 people were standing there. I think they spent an entire week doing all those things, and நானும் கொஞ்சம் சின்ன சின்ன ஹெல்ப் பண்ணேன், but I wasn't seriously involved. I was just like ஒரு ஏன்னா I was my batch student leader. So I was just facilitating the work to happen. I wasn't involved in the artworks themselves. But if they need something, I used to, like provide it for them, or like, or if they need a particular time or a time off from like a particular period or something like that, then I used to speak to the professors. So that's how it used to happen. So this is my class, my very first class, and this happened during Attic as well.
So can you share about your studio experience, the environment and studio? How?
Environment and studio as in?
Like because நான் உங்களோட ஸ்டாஃப்ஸ் கிட்ட கேட்கும்போது நீங்க ஒரு நார்த் ஈஸ்டான ஒரு கிட் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொன்னீங்க. So how it would, like உங்களோட ஸ்டுடியோ இது,
Okay.
where you like to sit and work அந்த மாதிரி.
Actually, the thing is, I was unintentionally very rebellious. Like it's not an intentional thing.
Yeah.
It's just that I used to come up with my own way of like working with things. There would have been, they would say like you should do a single line plan or a double line plan next, and like then section should come and all that. நான் முதல்ல எடுத்தோடனே மாடல் பண்ணிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறமா வந்துட்டு நான் இது வந்து மற்றது பண்ண ஆரம்பிப்பேன் நான். ஸோ இட்ஸ் நாட் சம்திங் தட் ஐ இன்டென்ஷனலி டூ, பட் ஐ ஜஸ்ட் கெட் எக்ஸைட்டட் வித் த ஒர்க், அண்ட் லைக் சம்திங் வுட் ஹெல்ப் மீ, அண்ட் ஐல் கோ வித் த ஃப்ளோ. ஸோ நேச்சுரலி இட் வில் பி லைக் ஒரு there will be a front and back because of that, no? So but somehow I managed to be successful with that, because where necessary I used to like put my foot down and say no, I'm not doing this. And they would also say, like சில சமயம் they used to back off, சில சமயம் like இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணல அவ்வளவுதான், லைக் வந்துட்டு உனக்கு ஸ்கோர் இவ்வளவுதான், அதுவும் இருக்கும். But it's the challenge that you need to like go further. But sometimes I'm also like எப்படி சொல்றது, சில சமயம் I used to take a day off from the college so that I get the mind space to like focus on design and all that. So whatever I needed, like whatever environment I needed, I used to create for myself. And sometimes people were pleased with that, sometimes people were not pleased with that. So that was one of the reasons why I had a roller coaster ride. But the end result has always been something I was proud of. So that's something I can say. ஏன்னா வந்து it was never like இந்த சண்டைலாம் போட்டேன் இல்லை இந்த சேலஞ்செலாம் இருந்துச்சு பட் ஆனால் வந்துட்டு அதனால் பார்த்தியா வந்து என்னால் டிசைன் ஒழுங்காக பண்ண முடியல அப்படின்ற மாதிரி ஒரு சுச்சுவேஷன் வந்துட்டு இருந்ததே கிடையாது. At the end result, I would have somehow ensured that it was to my liking, or like I was something that's something I am proud of. So this is how I used to be as a student. Yeah.
The next photo.
This photo, I'm trying to see.
Studio.
அந்த பிளாஸ்மா டிவி வந்துட்டு நான் பார்த்த மாதிரி எனக்கு ஞாபகம் இல்லை. ஐம் நாட் ஷுர் whether it was still there, like when I was there.
It's actually added.
Okay, I don't have a lot of memories about this photo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
lobby space.
Yeah. So all these things as well, no? I think these were done by my seniors even before Attic. And இப்போ கூட நான் பார்த்தேன், it's a good thing that you haven't changed it. Like one of my favorite lines is there is, like in the photo அப்படியே இந்த பக்கம் இருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். An architect's fight is a designer's fight, life is a fight against ugliness. That used to be one of my favorite artworks there.
It's again the studio.
Here, we used to have a lot of activities. இங்க வந்துட்டு ஒரு இப்போ வந்துட்டு இருக்கான்னு தெரியல. I don't remember, but it was Madras related some artwork, like that was also done by my seniors only. So yeah, that's what I remember about this place.
What about these paintings and all that?
I remember who did this, and this was also done during Attic. ஏன்னா வந்து அந்த ஓப்பன் க்ளோஸ் எலிவேட்டருக்கு பண்ணது நாங்கள் வந்து எங்களோட ரூமில் அந்த பெர்ஸ்பெக்டிவோட பண்ணியிருந்தோம். இங்கே வந்துட்டு என்னோட சீனியர் தான் பண்ணாங்க. இந்த ஓப்பன் க்ளோஸ் மாடலில் பண்ணது. I'm glad that you still have it. This used to be like our attic. இங்கே அந்த கர்வில் தான் உட்காந்துட்டு உள்ளே உட்காந்து ஒர்க் பண்ணணும்னு தோணாதில்ல. ஏதாச்சும் ஒரு குரூப் ஒர்க்னா வெளியில் தான் வந்துட்டு யூஸ் டு ஒர்க்.
Classrooms.
This is nice. இது என்ன நீங்க போன ட்ரிப்லாமா இல்ல எல்லாரும் போன ட்ரிப்லாமா? ஓகே.
So actually, next question வந்துட்டு when you asked your staffs and all, அவங்க சொன்னாங்க your presentation style is very different. The way you use your colors and your narration. I think narration is very important for presenting something. So your idea and your perspective of presentation, narration, choosing colors and everything.
See, I think presentation is a very overlooked area. You know that I won my, like the NIASA. I was shortlisted and then I won a national award. If you honestly ask me to assess my work, I would say there are some people who did better work than me. But I think I presented things better than them. Like that is a serious skill that you need to have. And you see a lot of architects or even designers who just think that like their work should speak for themselves, but in reality that doesn't happen. You should speak for the work, and not in a very like a commercial or a very like or I need to create some benefit out of it. Not that kind of a way. When you love something so much, like you will want to talk about it. Like you will want to spend time on it. You want to make sure that that person exactly understands what all you thought about it before this happened and all that. So presentation comes from that passion. If design can come out of passion, presentation also comes from passion. Like, but presentation is always considered as an afterthought by like many designers, many architects. Hey, what, I've already done this. I'm just going to talk about it. But presentation there is a separate effort that you need to put, and that is something I always used to do with any of my designs. Like you do something so amazing, at least according to you. You pour so much of yourself, pour so much love into it, and then then presentation is the one thing that you don't want to screw up. So that is something I used to feel very passionate about, that anybody who's listening to me, like anybody who's listening to the design, listening to me about my designs, they should understand it, like fully understand it. I don't want them to, like understand it 10%, 20%. I want them to understand it 100%, like, and that's something I would want to emotionally, like make sure. And the way I used to develop my presentation skills was that I was around a few people who also put that importance into presentation. Like there are two layers. There is a visual layer to the presentation. There is also an oral layer to the presentation. Both are important. And I know a lot of people who are very good with the oral layer of the presentation. Okay, and with architecture especially. The visual presentation is, like particularly very important, because you are designing something that's going to be that might not be built, or that's going to be built after a year or two, and only then you will actually see the final product. So the way in which you visualize things or communicate things, they need to be on point and precise, and it should not be boring. It shouldn't just be about, or I conveyed something technically and information and the மாதிரி. It should also be so exciting, like the way, shall I try a different art style, so that it's exciting. I want to, like remove now how we normally annotate in plans. This is a living room, this is a toilet, this is the dimensions for this, these are the dimensions for this room. அந்த மாதிரி நம்ம பண்ணுவோம்ல, அதெல்லாம் பண்றதுக்கு பதிலா வந்து, because that also clutters the whole plan. What if you remove all that and you actually put some effort, like draw human beings and put it inside, so that people, even without you writing that as a living room, people understand that it is a living room, like, or this is a kitchen because it looks like somebody sitting on the floor and chopping some vegetables. So it adds some life into the drawing also. It's not some, like plan or a lifeless drawing. It's actually a place that is, it's going to be a place that is full of life, and that's how it needs to be presented, and a graphic scale or things like that. So I used to put some focus just on, how well it can be emotionally as well as technically communicated. And then I could show you later for this NIASA presentation, like we were allotted 15 minutes. So I wrote something. I spent some 3 days or something on it. I finished the presentation, and I wrote something. I rehearsed it again and again, and I was clocking myself. Okay, to say this paragraph, it takes these many minutes. To say this paragraph, it takes these many minutes. For every paragraph, I used to have a 10-second buffer period. So, like, I still had some comfortable space, and I clocked it around 13 minutes, 30 seconds or something like that. 15 minutes was the time I would be allotted with. So, in the beginning, I was not able to achieve those 13 minutes, 13 seconds period, because I was, hesitating, stammering, or, I would even repeat certain words and all that. But for such a planned presentation, I used to spend that time two days just for, writing, saying it out loud again and again and again. And, I was finally able to clock it exactly at 13 minutes, 13 seconds. And I was able to do all that during the final jury as well. So that's a presentation, that your choice of words, learning the right terminologies, because, at the end of the day, if you say things like ஒரு கான்கிரீட் பிளாக்கை பார்த்து வந்து அதுவும் செங்கல் தான் அப்படின்ற மாதிரிலாம் பேசக்கூடாதுல்ல. லைக் தட் இஸ் அ பர்டிகுலர் மெட்டீரியல் மீன்ஸ் இட் ஹாஸ் இஸ் வெரி ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் நேம். You need to know the terminologies to communicate to another person better. So there is no overlap, there is no ambiguity. So learning the terminologies, finding inspiration, how people present their ideas, even the things that you think are unnecessary, like you need to like focus, like you need to think maybe it's an important thing, I want to present this, and that passion just towards I did something so well, and I want to tell like I want to be able to talk to people about it, in the maximum capacity. So through that passion also, like something comes. So all these layers have to be put together, and that I think everything comes from this passion.
Yeah, it's actually right, because like நிறைய பேர் won't spend time in narration and all, because
how many times have you heard people saying that, like my design should speak for itself? Come on, it doesn't happen.
That's why even after your years, நீங்க இந்த காலேஜ் முடிச்சு போனாலுமே people, the staff could remember about your presentation, your narrations, because of the effort that you put in that. So you will definitely learn that from you, sir. And about your portfolio, since we started the presentation, what was your process in building a portfolio, better portfolio?
One thing is, see, your obviously your work is there, okay, like, assuming that you have done amazing work, அதுக்கப்புறமா வந்துட்டு there are still some layers, like amazing work alone is not enough, no, there is a personality that you have, then there is, like a constraint that you are facing with, because you're sending your portfolio to somebody who's going to look at hundreds of portfolios, like, and it needs to stand out, okay, and if you look at all the portfolios that people design, no, there is a level of urgency or a desperation because, hey, you know what, I did so much, I want to dump everything into it. I'm going to write so much about it, I'm going to dump all the drawings in it. But what happens because of that is, like the end result is actually counterproductive. You want to say so much and you want that person to understand everything, but because of that desperation, he understands nothing. It becomes zero. Okay. But if you realistically set a target that, hey, you know what, I just want this person to understand 25% of it or 20% of it, because the concept alone is something that is something that I'm proud of. And அதை மட்டும் தான் explain பண்ண போறேன், and minimal text மட்டும் தான் போட போறேன் அப்படின்னா, chances are that person will spend time and like look at it and or at least try to understand 10 to 15% of it, and you slow him down. Okay, right? So that's one serious consideration we all need to have with our portfolio, because every portfolio that you come across looks very desperate. Drawings dump, so much text inside it. Sometimes it's 40 pages and all that. Doesn't work. இவ்வளவுதான் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி பண்ணா வந்துட்டு it shows confidence, it shows clarity, and then it also it also has the potential to make a person stop and then go through it, instead of just flipping the pages, எல்லாம் போட்டு வரேன். So that is one important thing. The second thing is, like I said, it's your personality. Some people choose to not show it, which is also a nice thing, because because they might think that எனக்கு வந்து work இதெல்லாம் important கிடையாதுன்னு நினைக்கலாம். So that's a good thing. If you want to show your personality, you can do some crazy things, like, and I used to experiment some crazy things. I made an entirely black and white portfolio, like so everybody told it won't work, but somehow I got, I applied only for 2 firms and I got offer from both those 2 firms, so I never had to apply to any other firm also. So I was able to pick from one and I was able to proceed. So everybody said it's not going to work, but it worked. Okay, but I won't say it's the epitome of a portfolio. It's just that somebody, like from 3rd year, they did something crazy and somebody was inspired by it, or they found it exciting, so they gave me an offer. So you have to have the guts to like try something, even if it fails. It's a now is the time to actually comfortably fail and like learn, because you simply are not going to be affected by anything. So those things you can do with your portfolio. And lastly, obviously, like you need to look at inspiration and like make it visually aesthetic and all that. So obviously your design needs to be explained really well. Those layers are there. But apart from that, these two are like serious considerations. How do you what kind of risks you are taking, how you want to like present yourself, your personality. And the other side is, realistically, this person doesn't have a lot of time. So இவ்வளவுதான் காமிக்க போறோம், அந்த desperation இல்லாம பண்ணணும். If you are desperate and you want to show everything, he actually sees nothing. So that's a contradiction that you have to like sort mentally and then approach the portfolio.
So from architecture to a creative field. So இங்கிருந்து from Chennai, you've traveled abroad and you've done creative streams and all. So what made that shift?
So see, ever since I was even when I was doing architecture, like you yourself mentioned, like I was known for presentation. So that was already there, and there was a special excitement that used to come to me, like on how to present something. And as a result of that, I used to make a few books. My portfolio was a book, like a physical book. Even before that, there was this one particular project, myself and like 2 other batchmates, we built a small paper crate house for a person who was living inside a hut, thatch hut. So அவருக்கு போய் நாங்கள் ஒரு வீடு கட்டி தந்தோம், அந்த வீடை நாங்கள் டாக்குமெண்ட் பண்ணோம். அந்த டாக்குமெண்டேஷன் வந்துட்டு it was a small mini book, instead of making it like a typical report, it was a conversation between the 3 of us. So பார்க்க வந்துட்டு ஒரு அவ்வளோ நல்லா இருக்கும் அப்படின்லாம் சொல்ல முடியாது, ஆனால் பார்க்க யூனிக்காக இருக்கும். அங்கே தான் வந்துட்டு எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சது ஆரம்பிச்சது. ஸோ போக போக வந்துட்டு it was always, there was always some inclination towards presentation, and design and visual representation, and I always felt like, this could be explained better in a more simple way, in a more effective way, and I think that's the trajectory it naturally took to lead me there. And now, looking back, I'm also right now I'm specialized in I won't just say I'm a graphic designer because we are trying to specialize in book design, like this book itself, like the odd looking books, the extreme ideas, thought processes, and all that. Looking back, I've done a lot of books, like even when they were not commercial. So I feel like it naturally took me in a direction where like presentation mattered, and I was more inclined towards it, and like the career got built that way itself. And architecture played a huge role in shaping how I think and do things, because this book also is a result of an architecture way of thinking. There is a map inside it, and you navigate through that map. There are no page numbers on the American concepts. So the architect in me will always be there, but that architecture background is what shaped me to go into this direction as well. So that was the journey. I think from the presentation, like inclination towards presentation itself. I think this I started making this route unknowingly. So now I know.
So book designer, I think it's far way different from architecture.
Yeah.
So what made you to get into this? And you can explain about your book.
See, I'll tell you a little bit. So I think it all comes down to like I feel like people do not know how to like present something very effectively, only because they do not think it is a very important thing. They don't spend that effort and like do that, and that's something I was practicing like during my architecture years, and and in with architecture especially, there are much more challenging things to communicate. If you talk about urban design, or if you talk about one particular section, or like even a door detail or things like that, there are very very like there are those micro macro challenging things to explain, and you have to figure out a way to explain these things to like many number of views and all that. So that shaped the book designer in me, and that's what happened. And this is the first commercial, or how to say, first big commercial book that I was part of, and my partner Shushti is also part of. So we both designed it together, and what happened was, இதில் நடந்த நிறைய விஷயங்கள் வந்துட்டு it comes from an architect's way of thinking also, because when we wanted to like map the mandapam, we came up with a very clear numbering system, something that is very intuitive. அது ஒரு கிளாக் வைஸாக மட்டும்தான் போகணும், ஸ்கல்ப்சர்ஸ்னா இந்த மாதிரி பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு பண்ணோம். அண்ட் ஒரு டிஃப்ரெண்ட் டைப்ஸ் ஆஃப் ஸ்கல்ப்சர்ஸ் இருக்குன்னா டிஃப்ரெண்ட் டைப்ஸ் ஆஃப் ஸ்கல்ப்சர்ஸ் வந்துட்டு டிஃப்ரெண்ட் டைப்ஸ் ஆஃப் ஐக்கன்ஸ் கிரியேட் பண்ணணும். அண்ட் தென் இவ்வளோ மேப்புக்கே நம்ம இவ்வளோ எஃபர்ட் ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ணியாச்சு. ஸோ வை நாட் லைக் மேக் த புக் இட் செல்ஃப் வென் அ வெரி மேப் சென்ட்ரிக் வே அப்படின்னு போகும்போது, இந்த ஒரு பில்லருக்குள்ள இருக்கிற அந்த ஸ்கல்ப்சரை எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணுறது எப்படி நடக்கும்னா, பேஜ் நம்பர்ஸ் இல்லாமல் அந்த பில்லரோட நம்பர் மூலியமாகவே நடக்கும். ஸோ திஸ் புக் ஹேஸ் 300 pages, but it doesn't have any page numbers. அது பில்லர் நம்பர் மூலியமாகவே, ஏன்னா the map is so well designed, so all you need is if you open this book, this flap is always going to be permanently open. So in the book நான் இப்படி நான் மூவ் பண்ணுறேன்னா கூட வந்து when I come to a place like this, there is this navigation bar, you see the pillar number and you refer this, இந்த பில்லர் வந்து இங்கே இருக்கு, இந்த ஐக்கன் வந்து யாழி, so it's 2 number பில்லரில் இருக்கிற யாழி. So that's how you go through it. And அப்படியே வந்துட்டு ஒரு வாக் த்ரூ மாதிரியே இந்த புக்கை டிசைன் பண்ணிருக்கோம் அப்படின்னா, it also comes from a certain way in which like we are used to thinking. So from architecture to here, like it was a solid direction for me. It was it never felt like I dropped this and then I came to this. I felt like it was a natural progression of things. This is something I would have done otherwise. Even if I was in architecture, this is something I would have done. So it was very natural way to like progress is how I feel about this.
So next one, like இங்க நம்ம இந்தியாவில் ஆர்கிடெக்சர் அண்ட் ரிலேட்டட் ஸ்ட்ரீம்ஸ் படிக்கிறோம், அப்ராட்ல வந்து the way of teaching and everything is different. What is the major difference that you see between these?
I think the major difference was how you collaborate with your professors as well. So இங்க வந்துட்டு எனக்கு என்ன தோணுச்சுன்னா வந்துட்டு the at least when we used to do we also used to be very proactive. இப்படி பண்ணலாமா அப்படி பண்ணலாமான்னு சொல்லிட்டு, and there இங்க வந்து professors also there is a little bit more of a strict hierarchy இல்ல. சில சமயம் வந்துட்டு you hesitate to debate with them about something, even if it's a healthy debate. அந்த ஹெசிடேஷன், ஐ எம் நாட் சேயிங் தட் தே won't debate with you, but நமக்கு முதல்ல டிபேட் பண்ணணும்னாலே அந்த பவுண்டரி வி நேச்சுரலி ஃபீல் வித் தம், பிகாஸ் எல்டர்ஸ்க்கு நம்ம ரெஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணணும், இல்லை வந்துட்டு டிபேட் வந்து வி கன்ஃபியூஸ் இட் வித் டிஸ்ரெஸ்பெக்ட் அண்ட் ஆல் தோஸ் திங்ஸ். ஸோ அங்கே வந்து ட்ரூ கொலாபரேஷன் வாஸ் பாசிபிள். I didn't study architecture there, I was studying design there. But you can say, like it's still architecture is also a design field, and the whole point of design is to learn through trying something, discussing with your senior, and that's how we learn. So I think collaboration was that main thing. And if you strongly say no, I don't feel like this is a good direction, I'm just going to go with this direction, chances are that they are more accepting than their Indian counterparts. So இந்த வந்துட்டு மேபி like there could be அந்த ஒரு stubbornness, or like there could be like that we've always done அப்படின்ற மாதிரி இருக்கும். But அங்க வந்துட்டு it was a little more nobody gets offended. I don't find this practical. And, even if you say something that doesn't make sense to them, they'll be like, what, this is the reason, வேணா பண்ணிக்கோ, பட் இல்லைன்னா this is the reason அப்படின்ற மாதிரி அப்படி சொல்லுவாங்க. So I think that is a very very important thing with, and I think that's how it should be anywhere, especially with design and architecture.
So, like you said, so like design is also interconnected with architecture because everything is about learning.
Yeah.
So, in case உங்களுக்கு ஒரு opportunity கிடைக்குது, you can implement any of the ideas from abroad in our college, what would it be?
Okay, in terms of teaching, administration,
anything, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe more specific in teaching also.
Yes. So one thing, if I really want to implement here is and there should be some sort of an icebreaker between students and professors. அது வந்து in India as a society itself is a little difficult to achieve because that's how we see elders, இல்லையா? And that's what அந்த ஒரு ஜோன்லேருந்து தான் நம்ம இப்படி ஒரு ஸ்டூடெண்ட் டீச்சர் ரிலேஷன்ஷிப் வரும்போதும் that's how it becomes, like நான் இவங்ககிட்ட அப்படி பேசலாமா, அவங்களுக்கும் அப்படி தோணலாம், இவங்க என்கிட்ட அப்படி பேசலாமா அப்படின்ற மாதிரி வந்து அவங்களுக்கும் தோணலாம். The vice versa is also possible. So this icebreaker, I don't know how to bring about, but I think this icebreaker needs to happen between professors and students, because that relationship is so important. You need to feel comfortable to share your most stupidest ideas, like you should be able to go and talk to them, and they should also be able to encourage that conversation and be like, அவங்க ஆர்கியூ பண்றாங்க பட் பரவாயில்ல, பட் let me try to like logically answer that question. I'm not going to consider this as a debate or an argument. I'm just going to have a healthy conversation with them அப்படின்றது அவங்களுக்கும் தோணும். உங்களுக்கும் வந்துட்டு இல்ல நான் ரொம்ப ஸ்டேட் பண்ண வேண்டாம், நான் போய் கேட்கலாம் அப்படின்ற அந்த ஒரு கான்ஃபிடன்ஸ் உங்களுக்கு வரணும். ஸோ it's a very superficial thing, but I think that is the one thing I feel like will change everything related to how we study or how we see things here.
Right, implemented. So next is talking about internships, because as we are in fourth year, I think we need it much better. So intern kaga neenga edutha process, like what firms did you apply, and you were very specific in the mari or particular streams kulla da ponuma firms la. What were the process behind your internship?
Okay, so first 3 years, like my fourth year was an internship. First 3 years, I used to be so strong with concepts, like my designs would be having these crazy concepts. இப்படி பறக்க வைக்கலாமா, இல்லை வந்து தலைகீழ பண்ணலாமா, அந்த மாதிரி தான் வந்து ஒரு impractical concepts தான் I used to do a lot. And because of that, I also realized the weakness that I have. I was zero with like any technical knowledge, like zero. How something needs to be constructed, how something needs to be implemented, I knew nothing about it. So that is the one thing I wanted to change if I go into internship. And when I come back as a like a final year student, and to do my thesis, this is the one skill I didn't want to lack anymore, because 3 years with it I've done some like crazy, like when nilala இப்படி பறக்க வைக்கலாம் அந்த மாதிரி வந்து I'm saying like சும்மா exaggerate பண்றேன், but ஆனா வந்து my concepts used to be very impractical, but I'm still proud of those concepts. பட் எனக்கு இந்த ஒரு வீக்னஸ் இருந்தது, அந்த ஸ்ட்ரக்சரா இல்லை ஒரு ப்ராக்டிக்கலா எப்படி பண்ணணுன்றது தெரியாம இருந்தது. ஸோ நான் பண்ண இதை கற்றுக்கணுன்ற போது ஐ ஷார்ட் லிஸ்டட் ஸ்டுடியோஸ் இட்செல்ஃப் இன் தட் வே ஒன்லி, வேர் ஐ வில் கெட் சம் ஹேண்ட்ஸ் ஆன் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் ஆன் பில்டிங் கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன். ஆரோவில்ல நிறைய பார்த்தேன், காஸ்ஃபோர்ட் பார்த்தேன், and Cosford was my first priority because like I like the value of design also in Cosford, especially with Laurie Baker and all. So by learning construction and like implementation, I'm not going to not learn design அப்படின்ற ஒரு ஃபீலிங் இருந்தது எனக்கு. So Cosford was my first priority and I applied there and I received it. And that 1 year was very successful in the way I thought about it. Because that's the one thing I wanted to correct about myself. That one weakness is what I wanted to solve. And I was able to, in that way, when I see things, that's exactly what I got, and that's exactly what I was able to work on. And when I came back in final year, I felt like I was 100 in that area. I didn't feel weak in that area anymore. So that's how I picked things. So if you have to pick things also, maybe you have to analyze your weakness or like something that you never got an opportunity to learn on. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு இடத்தை பார்த்து, if you shortlist, maybe it will be a very successful period to study.
So after intern, what was your experience? Like, what did you learn from intern? Was it difficult or was it?
It was different. I wouldn't say it's difficult, but when I came back as a final year student, all these impractical concepts vanished. Suddenly, I was this very logical person. Like, and this not in a boring way, but there are some. Even if I have crazy ideas, I became this person who would find practical solutions to achieve that crazy idea. So I think that is the one upgrade that I got, when I came back. So post internship period, but one thing I was not very happy with was that I expected to learn more into design, but that 1 year went into execution and all that. So now in the varumbodhu I felt like I forgot how to design, and the mari that feeling was there. But it took a while to warm up again. But this knowledge that you acquire in terms of like construction and execution, like that never goes away. So when it came to thesis, I was finally able to mix and match both these things, and suddenly I was a different person. Like this impractical, crazy idea guy. Like he suddenly became this very he was able to become logical. Even those crazy ideas, like they mellowed down a little bit. But whatever it got mellowed down to, I was also able to make it practical. இப்படி பண்ணா இந்த ஐடியாவை ரீச் பண்ண முடியுன்ற மாதிரி என்னால that is one upgrade I got post this internship period.
So now we'll have a quick rapid fire session. So
Okay.
I'll be asking ஒரு random questions மாதிரி. So
Okay. I'm scared. Okay.
so first yearல வந்துட்டு it will be like very new, like late night you have to work. So what was your survival kit? Like coffee, music, which was your survival?
So this might come across as a shock. நான் லேட் நைட்லாம் ஒர்க் பண்ணதே கிடையாது.
Okay.
நான் 9 மணிக்கு தூங்குவேன். நான் காலையில் 5 மணிக்கு எழுப்பேன். somehow I used to finish things. அவ்வளோதான்.
Your juries, like நீங்க நிறைய ரிவ்யூஸ் அட்டெண்ட் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க. ஸோ நீங்க ஃப்ரீக்வெண்டா கேட்ட ஒரு வேர்டிங்ஸ் ஃப்ரம் யுவர் ஜூரி.
ஃப்ரீக்வெண்ட்டாக கேட்ட ஒரு வேர்டிங்ஸ் எனக்கா இல்லை யாருக்கு வந்தாலும்?
உங்களுக்கு
வாயிலேயே வடை சுடுறேன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஆனா அங்க போனதுக்கப்புறமா மிலான் போனதுக்கப்புறமா இதுதான் ப்ரெசன்டேஷன் ஸ்கில்ஸ்னு சொன்னாங்க. ஓகே கூல் அப்படின்னு விட்டாச்சு. அது
most unexpected thing that you learned from DARC?
Unexpected thing. I think a lot of real world experience, like if you ask me to do, like right now I'm an all-rounder, but that all-rounder skill, like was acquired because if you have to do something, you have to do everything, like you have to speak to people, you have to, like be good at math. So, I became an all-rounder because of DARC.
So your favorite software that you use?
Favorite software? Okay. With architecture, actually AutoCAD. Yeah. If you've seen any of my previous works, like there was a phase where I was trying to do 3D renders and all that, but I felt like everybody was doing that and it didn't differentiate me. So AutoCAD I relearned it a little bit. Then the 3D la kuda vandu I used to AutoCAD ஒரு 3D mode இருக்குல, I wouldn't go into it. 2D liye vandu I used to draft in 3D, like the isometric way. So not a lot of people can do it, but it used to be very interesting for me. And if you look at my presentations, like ஒன்னொன்னும் பார்த்து ஒரு லைன் வரைஞ்ச மாதிரி இருக்கும். Then I take it to Photoshop, color it, do things. But because of that I like AutoCAD more.
So which is the worst stress? Printing on the day stress or the jury day stress?
No, I would particularly try not to be stressful on both those days. ஏன்னா வந்துட்டு usually என்ன நடக்கும்னா வந்துட்டு if there are 5 reviews throughout a semester, I would be lagging behind, like for the first 2 reviews, because I wouldn't have anything to show. Everybody will have something to show. Third review, I would have come somewhere. Fourth and fifth review, I would be very strong. people will be lagging behind. But I fifth review, I'll be on top. So printing also happens. At least 2 days before I'll try to like print and keep everything, so that one day before the jury I'm not doing anything. I really don't want to do anything. Jury day I'm chill. Like I try to. I'm not even going to look at my sheets. I used to maintain myself in that zone. So no stress.
Okay, sir. If your architecture journey was a building, what it would be?
Some probably like an Anthony body building. Yeah.
So, if in case like software, pati, if I need to ask, what is the software skill that the student have to learn in BR?
Okay, I somehow expected this question, but I already have an answer prepared for this. The thing is, this is one way I work. Probably that might not apply to you, but I also think this is a very good way to like look things into the future. The thing is, a lot of designers or a lot of architects, they base their entire skill on how well they can like use a software, and their design skills itself are shaped by like what all is possible through that software. And a lot of people you see online, like who boast in I cannot design, they primarily sell themselves on like their software skills. But a designer is like as a designer or as an architect, you are much more than that. Like the thing is, you have this crazy idea. Sometimes it's not possible, like with the software that you are used to doing. And because of that idea, you learn that new software and how exactly to implement that particular thing. So this reliance on softwares, I feel like it's become a lot, to the point where it's detrimental to like creative thinking. Because thinking should determine which software to use, rather than software determining like what creative idea you can come with. Because most often that happens, especially in the recent times. So I think if you're really passionate about your idea, you will always try to figure out, like even if that is an alien software to you, you will try to learn it just for that day. Like in the idea மட்டும் execute பண்றதுக்காக I'll learn it. So that's how I feel like we have to think that software should never be a limiting factor, but your thinking should actually be an opening up factor. You need to, if you have to learn something, you have to learn something on the fire. Even if it's a temporary thing, you don't have to be 100%, like a master at it.
Yeah.
You just need to know enough to. Yeah.
So after intern, like you said, நீங்க ரொம்ப ஒரு logical thinking அந்த மாதிரி. So next now it's about your thesis.
Yeah.
So how was your intern helpful in your thesis, and what were the process that you made for the thesis?
Yeah, like I said, like that's the one design where like extraordinary creative thinking and extreme practical thinking both merged finally, because that never happened before. And there was a struggle, because at that point I felt like, okay, now I know the knack behind how to construct something, but I felt like I lost my like touch with how to design something. So luckily, immediately after internship, thesis didn't happen. Because 7th and 8th semester it was internship, 9th semester there was urban design. 9th semester like I really had to like break the ties and like once again relearn how to design, or bring that knack again. So because that happened, finally during my thesis I was able to I was able to design because that's a new way I have to develop. Because earlier இது வரைக்கும் பண்ண design எல்லாமே it was done with a different mindset, it was done with a different consideration. Suddenly I was not able to design because I became a different person, and like, and to find that balance, like, and for the very first time, because after internship you are designing for the first time, it was extremely difficult, and I was not performing well on the first two reviews. I wasn't able to produce anything because I was stuck. In fact, I was stuck to the point where I was considering whether I have to like do it next year, I'll postpone it or something like that, because I didn't want to finish something for the sake of it. I thought maybe I'll fail, but I'll just make myself, like honestly design something. But luckily it didn't go to that extent. Third month or something like this, suddenly some spark occurred, and I was able to. I started with a like a foot at the back. Everybody was already like away from me, but suddenly I was. Somehow I was able to push myself, and in the last 2 months I was working with that fire, and I was able to reach the end goal before others as well. And there were no complaints, no regrets I have, like, because என்னால் மாடல்ஸாகவும் பண்ண முடிஞ்சது, ப்ரெசன்டேஷன் இல்லாமல் நான் நினச்ச மாதிரி பண்ண முடிஞ்சது, டிசைனும் நான் நினச்ச மாதிரி வந்தது. அண்ட் இட் வாஸ் அ வெரி நியூ கைண்ட் ஆஃப் அ டிசைன் தட் கேம் அவுட் ஆஃப் மீ. If you compare that particular project with every other project that I had done till now அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. So internship really challenged me to become someone else, and that's how it helped me.
So, like you mentioned, like Pari students when they were forward and like you were stepping that time up. So, how did you face that ups and downs, and what kept you moving?
I think I had company. That's the reason why like it kept moving, because we were 80 students. I'm not saying that 80 students gave me company. I think there was only like one or two students like me who were like rebelling a little bit, saying like in the time நான் பண்ண மாட்டேன் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. So because of that company, okay, if I screw up, this guy is also going to get screwed up. So like, so why not அப்படின்ற மாதிரி வந்துட்டு அந்த அந்த ஒரு little bit of a competition, little bit of a support, little bit of a rivalry, like those kind of things are important to like keep you moving. Because if you really love what you do, and when you see someone doing that better than you would really want to do it better than them, like just for your own sake, because that competitiveness needs to be there. I feel like that kind of a healthy competition I had with someone, and I was also able to like in fact a few people I was able to like I had that competition with a few people, and I was they were also rebelling a little bit. நான் இப்படி தான் பண்ண போறேன்னு சொல்லிட்டு, because that support was there, I was also able to find my light and keep doing this way I really wanted to do.
Sir, can you share one of the best and worst memory from this college?
I think it could be the same memory, like both could be the same memory. So first year, all of us were like it was like a summer, or everybody was rebelling. It was almost like a civil war ground. But then staffs were also young, we were also young, nobody was like the college itself was young. So many things were happening, and we were also like நாமளும் வந்து எங்களுக்கு புதுசு பாதிக்கும்ல. So finally they said like they are going to suspend us or something like that. Okay, like including me and people who were like having who were always with me. So எல்லாரையும் சஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ண போறோம்னு சொன்னாங்க. வந்து இவங்க வந்து சஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ணாலும் வந்துட்டு ஜாலியாக தான் இருக்க போறாங்க, சஸ்பெண்ட்லாம் பண்ண வேண்டாம், இவங்களோட எல்லாரோட டிராஃப்டிங் டேபிளும் எடுத்துட்டு வந்து உள்ள ஸ்டாஃப் ரூம்ல போட்டுருங்க அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்லிட்டு அந்த 1 வீக் வந்துட்டு நம்ம காலேஜில் சஸ்பென்ஷன் இப்படி தான் நடக்கும்போது எல்லாரும் வந்து என் ஸ்டாஃப் ரூம்ல தான் உட்கார போறீங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு என்னோட சேர்ந்து வந்து there were 7 or 8 more people. At that time Kalai Selvi ma'am was the director of the college. Okay, now she is a visiting faculty. She was the director and she had her own room. நான் கொஞ்சம் ஸ்பெஷல் அக்யூஸ்ட்ன்றதுனால வந்துட்டு என்ன வந்துட்டு அவங்க ரூம்ல உட்கார வச்சுட்டு இது பண்ணிருந்தாங்க. ஸோ தட் 1 week it was a very challenging period, because you are getting punished and all that, but it's also a very fun period because it's a memory that you will cherish. I think I connected more with Kalai Selvi ma'am because of that. I was inside a room and like as a form of punishment, but at the same time I also used to show my work directly to her, and like she also used to understand me a little bit more and all that. So the worst and best memory both are like the same memory.
Can you tell about your college trips and நீங்க வந்து காலேஜ்ல இது மிஸ் பண்ணிட்டோம் அப்படின்னு நினைச்ச ஒரு விஷயம்?
No, I feel like our batch we went to a lot of trips. So I think we went to a lot of trips compared to any other batch. So it will be very bad if I say like we feel like I feel like we missed something. So trips were some of the most exciting parts of college life. One of the most exciting trips was this Ahmedabad trip. It was in 2015, I think, because at the time the Batman vs Superman movie was also released, and like everybody was crazy about that movie, and we used to play those trailers in the TV. Aishwarya ma'am, Babji sir, they were the ones who accompanied us also. So Ahmedabad, there is also a lot to learn because people like B.V. Doshi, Charles Korea, like a lot of their work used to be there. So there is enough amount of learning. But at the same time, we had a lot of fun because of the period where we went. We also wanted to book this movie and all, but we never got the ticket. And the Mari coach, and we were also gelling with the staffs a lot. Some fun, jokes were a lot. So I think that was the best trip. I can't say that we missed anything as such.
So you are like from the model and the Malaysia they were so interested. So what was the material that you used for mounting? Which was your favorite material?
Balsa wood. I know it's something,
It's a
like
typical-
everybody, like I don't know if you guys are using it, but balsa wood was my favorite material because it's an actual raw material, no wood. If you use foam board or something like that, there is a level of fakeness to the model. But when you use something like balsa wood, no, it's actually wood, and it actually has the wood texture, and it feels like you are constructing something. My final thesis model, I'll tell you the list of materials I used. So I did two kinds of models. One was the site model, and in my site there were contours, there were different types of soil, and there were two water bodies as well, and there are plants also, two types of plants. One mostly, like one kind was coconut trees, another kind was like neem trees. So I made these putty neem trees and coconut trees. Neem trees were made with catterick sheet, like a ஒரு ரெண்டு மூணு ஸ்கொயர்ஸ் கட் பண்ணி வந்துட்டு ஒரு பெல் பென், தட் வாஸ் a neem tree. Uh, and a coconut tree was a toothpick with a small triangular, like foliage on the top. And the entire model was, like made with wood, MDF board. And I wanted to show three kinds of, like soil. MDF board was one thing. It was some soil, like balsa wood for, like sandy soil, and some other wood, அப்படியே பண்ணிட்டு the water bodies வந்துட்டு I used paraffin wax. உண்மையிலேயே வந்துட்டு I made a mold, and like I used molten wax to pour into it, set it. அதுக்கப்புறமா வந்துட்டு entire model was brown and like in the shades of brown, but this water body alone would be like this translucent white color and the மாதிரி. It was super like cool looking model, and I left it in college. Now it's not there, but this is like for the site model. And the other model that I made was I made three other sectional models for three buildings, library adukla. That was made purely using balsa wood. Balsa wood layer பண்ணிட்டு the base was done with teak, actual teak. ஏன்னா balsa woodum teakum வந்து ஒரே கலர்ல இருக்கும், கிட்டத்தட்ட lighter color woods. And I also made trees with teak flowers. I don't know if you know, if you have seen flowers. So teak is a deciduous tree, no? So it becomes dry during summers, and like its flowers are like brown in shade, brown in color, and there is no foliage or something. It will actually look like a tree, without any leaves in it. அது கீழே விழும்போது. ஸோ அதை அப்படியே எடுத்துன்னு வந்து இந்த பாம் the teak பேஸில் வச்சுட்டு I use some white dusters, பிச்சு போட்டு அந்த டீக் ஃப்ளவர் மேலே ஒட்டி ஃபுல்லாகவே வந்து ரியல் மெட்டீரியல்ஸ்லேயே யூஸ் பண்ணி வச்சு பண்ணது. ஸோ the first time again, this was also a progress. The very first model I did was using foam board and all that. Space frames la match stitch பண்ணது மாதிரி பண்ணது. But the very last model I did, it was using these real materials, balsa wood, teak base, teak wood of flowers, dusters and all that. So a lot of experimentation happened, but it also stood, like stood apart from the rest, because every other model was like done with foam board and things like that. So I have this liking towards real materials.
So on-site works, like from a college the things that we learned is like way different from when we work in the field. So what was your experience? What was the struggles, or what was the positive things that you faced on the site?
See, because architecture as a profession is very different inside the studio, outside and outside the studio. Because in many other design fields, probably design is more and the execution is less or non-existent also in some cases. Architecture வந்துட்டு design itself is actually this much, okay, but after that execution is like this much, and to translate that idea into that, like it has to go through a lot of teams, a lot of people, a lot of administrative issues and all that. So at that point, like personally, I think that is the space where I felt a little disconnected with architecture, because I love to design, and I also wanted my designs to be executed with as much precision as possible, instead of somebody else altering it. But I could never like stand there on site, and like it was, because it becomes a different ball game, like the amount of effort that you need to put there and all that, and so on the side, this is the main realization that occurred to me, that architecture was more project management than like design, and it somehow ended up disconnecting me with the field. So that's something you face in the field because you see you do all this design and somebody else is going to execute it. And if somebody else is going to execute it, the vision is going to change. If you want the vision to retain, you want to be a part of the project management. So it's not you can't do both. So அதனால வந்துட்டு that's a choice you have to make, and you have to live with that choice.
So about competitions. So actually, when we talked to Kalaichvi ma'am, we got to know that on the competition announcement it will be given as a common announcement in the class. But நீங்க அதுல ரொம்ப curious you will work for that அப்படின்னா ma'am. So what made you to go like get into the competition, and how serious you took?
I mean, honestly, I was never interested in competitions to begin with. I don't even, like get myself. I've never been to any NASA the programs also. Normally, don't like interacting with architects. Chumma talking about architecture and all that. I don't really like it. Competitions also same thing. I didn't want to really apply or anything like that. But that time, the one reason why I really wanted to apply was, yeah, I told I had this very offbeat process with architecture. So I got failed in internals. Now I had to prove a point. So other design which I wanted to apply, like for a competition, and I wanted to win that competition, and I won that competition. So that is the only reason why I wanted to, like apply for it. That's the reason. That's why I was so excited, and like I was fully, like there was a lot of fire inside, and that fire has to come outside somehow, like that. So that only one competition I applied, and that's all.
Sir, to conclude with, if you want to give an advice to a student who wants to join architecture and who are in architecture, what would be the advice?
I can give an advice to people who are already inside architecture. So I would say, like be passionate about your ideas. I know it's a very cliche thing to say, but the thing is, the more you fight for your ideas, like see, architecture is at the crossroads of like design and art and technology. So there is art also to it. There is a subjectivity aspect also to it. So anga vandittu this is the one space where you will be able to learn a lot, and where you will be able to explore a lot and all that. And if you go and like or a design பண்றீங்க, you are going and showing to one staff and they are saying some feedback, and you are going to another staff and அவங்க வேற ஏதோ ஒன்று சொல்றாங்க அப்படின்னா, it's not a problem, it's actually a feature of architecture. ஏன்னா we think it's a bug, like இவங்க ஒன்று சொல்றாங்க அவங்க ஒன்று சொல்றாங்க அப்படின்னா அப்படிதான் இருக்கணும்ல. இவங்க ஒன்று சொல்லணும் அவங்க ஒன்று சொல்லணும் ஆக்சுவலா. ஸோ அதை வந்து கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்டிவாக எடுத்து எனக்கு என்ன வேணுன்றது நீங்களும் யோசிக்கணும்ல, அந்த செல்ஃப் ரியலைசேஷனோட யோசிக்கணும். ஸோ இந்த ட்ரை டு லிசன் டு யுவர் செல்ஃப் மோர் and try to fight for yourself. That's an advice I'll give to people who are studying.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Because we are really very proud that our seniors like shining. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.